Why is it that the person you love most can be sitting right next to you, yet feel a million miles away? You're having conversations, sharing meals, maybe even laughing together, but something fundamental has shifted. There's a distance you can't quite name, a coldness that wasn't there before. The truth is, when someone checks out of a relationship emotionally, they rarely announce it with dramatic declarations or explosive arguments. Instead, it happens quietly, through subtle changes in behavior that are easy to miss if you're not paying attention. And by the time you notice, they may have already mentally walked out the door. But here's what most people don't understand about emotional withdrawal. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a sudden decision someone makes on a Tuesday afternoon. It's the end result of a slow, gradual process where someone feels increasingly disconnected, unheard, or unvalued. They don't check out because they're cruel or heartless. They check out because staying emotionally invested has become too painful. Think about it. When you've been trying to connect with someone, when you've been expressing your needs, your concerns, your dreams, and you consistently feel like you're talking to a wall, what happens? You stop trying. It's not vindictive. It's self-preservation. So when I tell you the signs that someone has emotionally checked out, I'm not doing it so you can point fingers or keep score. I'm sharing this because recognizing these patterns might be the wake-up call that saves your relationship, or at least helps you understand what went wrong. The first sign is the conversation shift. She stops bringing up problems. Now, you might think this sounds like good news. No more complaints, no more difficult discussions, no more tension. But pause and really think about this. When someone loves you and is invested in the relationship, they'll bring up issues because they believe the relationship is worth fighting for. They'll have those uncomfortable conversations because they want things to get better. When she stops mentioning the dishes piling up, when she no longer brings up feeling neglected, when she quits asking you to put your phone down during dinner, it's not because these things stopped bothering her. It's because she stopped believing that talking about them will change anything. She's given up on the idea that you'll hear her, really hear her, and make an effort to do things differently. This is where defensive arrogance becomes dangerous. Instead of recognizing this silence as a red flag, many people celebrate it. They think, finally, she's not nagging me anymore. They don't realize they're celebrating the death of their partner's hope. The second sign is emotional flatness. Her responses become neutral, almost robotic. Where there used to be enthusiasm, concern, joy, or even anger, there's now just nothing. She agrees to things without opinion. She responds to your stories with minimal reactions. It's like talking to someone who's physically present but emotionally absent. This flatness isn't depression, though it might look similar. It's detachment. She's protecting herself from further disappointment by not allowing herself to feel too much about anything related to you or the relationship. Every emotion she used to freely express has been carefully contained, locked away where it can't be hurt again. You might notice this during conversations about the future. Plans that used to excite her now get a simple, okay, or whatever you think. She's not being difficult or passive-aggressive. She's just not emotionally investing in outcomes she no longer believes will make her happy. The third sign is the shift in effort. She stops initiating. No more surprise date nights, no more thoughtful gestures, no more going out of her way to make you smile. She still fulfills her basic obligations. She still shows up to events. She still handles her responsibilities. But the extra mile, that's gone. Think about the beginning of your relationship. Remember how she'd text you random thoughts throughout the day, how she'd plan little surprises, how she'd make your favorite meal just because she knew it would make you happy. That behavior came from a place of joy and connection. When someone is emotionally invested, giving feels natural, even effortless. But when someone has checked out, that well of generosity runs dry. Not because they've become selfish, but because they've learned that their efforts aren't valued or reciprocated. They've poured themselves out repeatedly and felt like it disappeared into a void. Here's what's particularly painful about this sign. She might still do things for you, but the motivation has changed. Before, she did things because she loved you and wanted to make you happy. Now she does things because they're expected, because it's easier than the conflict that would come from not doing them. The fourth sign is the intimacy withdrawal. And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy, though that often diminishes too. I'm talking about emotional intimacy. She stops sharing her inner world with you, her fears, her dreams, her daily struggles, her victories, all the little thoughts and feelings that she used to naturally share. They get shared with friends, family, or kept to herself entirely. This happens because intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust. When someone has repeatedly felt dismissed, misunderstood, or invalidated, they stop taking the risk of being vulnerable. They keep their emotional selves safely protected, sharing only surface-level information. You might notice she talks more to her friends than to you about important things, or she makes decisions about her life without consulting you, not because she's being secretive, but because she no longer sees you as her emotional partner and confidant. The fifth sign is future planning shifts. She makes plans that don't include you, not because she's trying to exclude you, but because she's stopped automatically thinking of you as part of her future picture. She books trips with friends without checking your schedule. She makes career decisions without discussing them with you. She talks about goals and dreams in terms of I instead of we. This isn't necessarily about big, life-changing decisions. It shows up in small ways too. She commits to weekend plans without asking if you had anything in mind. She schedules appointments during times you usually spend together. She's not being inconsiderate. She's just stopped operating from a mindset where your partnership is central to her decision-making process. Now, here's what I need you to understand. These signs aren't a death sentence for your relationship, but they are a serious warning. The person you love hasn't become a different person. They're the same person who once lit up when they saw you, who once couldn't wait to tell you about their day, who once saw you as their teammate in life. What changed wasn't their capacity for love. What changed was their belief that loving you would be met with the same energy in return. But here's the thing about emotional withdrawal. It's often a protective mechanism, not a permanent state. People check out to avoid further pain, but deep down, most of them are hoping something will change. They're hoping you'll notice, you'll care enough to fight for the connection you once had. The window for reconnection doesn't stay open forever, though. There comes a point where emotional withdrawal becomes so complete that the person begins building a new life that doesn't include you at all. That's when checking out becomes moving on. So what do you do if you recognize these signs? First, you resist the urge to get defensive. You don't argue about whether these behaviors are real or justified. You don't make it about how these changes make you feel. Instead, you get curious. You ask yourself, what might have led to this emotional distance? Think back to the last time she tried to connect with you, the last time she brought up a concern, the last time she was vulnerable with you. How did you respond? Did you listen, really listen, or were you already formulating your defense? Did you make changes, or did you promise to change and then forget about it a week later? Then you take action. Not grand gestures designed to prove your love, but consistent daily actions that show you're paying attention. You start initiating conversations about her inner world. You ask about her feelings, her experiences, her needs. And when she shares, you listen without trying to fix or defend or minimize. You start making effort in the small daily ways that build connection. You put your phone away during conversations. You remember things she tells you and follow up on them later. You show appreciation for the things she does, even the things you've come to take for granted. Most importantly, you make changes. Real changes. If she's been asking you to help more around the house, you create systems to make that happen consistently, not just when you remember. If she's been feeling like you prioritize work or friends over her, you make concrete changes to show that she's a priority, but you also prepare yourself for the possibility that it might be too late. Emotional withdrawal often represents months or even years of unmet needs and failed attempts at connection. The damage might be too deep to repair, especially if this pattern has played out multiple times before. If that's the case, the kindest thing you can do is let her go with grace and learn from this experience for your next relationship. Because whether this relationship survives or not, understanding these patterns will make you a better partner going forward. The people we love don't check out because they want to hurt us.